In today's video, we will be discussing confidence building, counterconditioning, and desensitization. Confidence in a dog is much like confidence in a human. Almost universally, it is a positive characteristic. As a dog trainer, often owners will tell me about obedience issues that their dogs are having, not realizing that it's actually a confidence issue. An example might be a dog who's shaky, scared to try new things, fearful of ordinary situations, or prefers to ignore his owner instead of doing something uncomfortable. The solution, they may say, is I want my dog to become submissive, so it stops acting anxious and does whatever I tell him to do. However, contrary to popular belief, we don't want a submissive dog. In a dog's mind, submission means, look how small I am, please don't hurt me. Why would you ever want to make a dog feel that way? The dog may push itself to do certain behaviors if it's truly become submissive, but it's out of fear. At the end of the day, you have a fearful dog, not a confident dog. By contrast, a confident dog is much easier to train. A dog that is willing to try new things is much easier to train than a dog with fearful characteristics. This means far fewer problems with your dog down the road compared to having a submissive, fearful dog. Often younger and adolescent dogs will go through a period of fearful behavior, often referred to as the fear period, and seemingly losing confidence. For example, at 7 months of age, one of my dogs went through a fear period where she was afraid of people. When she would see someone new, her hackles would go up, she would continuously bark while backing up, and when she first started to display this behavior, I knew that I needed to fix it as soon as possible. Lucky for me, I have a lot of dog trainer friends that were able to help with the process. For 2 weeks, I personally did not feed my dog, but instead I had my dog training friends feed her from their hands. It was a progressive process as they couldn't just give her the food right away because she was cautious of them. So instead, they would stand with their backs facing her, their hands down by their side, palm facing outward, and she was able to, in a sense, steal, in her mind, the food from their hands. As she became more confident, they started to turn more towards her. Eventually, they would be able to bend down and feed her from their hand while petting her. So by doing this, we were able to create for her a very strong and positive association with new people. New people now give her the same positive feeling that she received when she was being rewarded by my friends. If your puppy or adolescent dog is having fear problems, there are some considerations to make. One thing you don't want to do is reinforce the fear-based behavior by petting them while they are acting fearful. However, you also don't want to use a physical correction to attempt to fix the problem, as this is almost a guarantee to make the fear worse. Instead, there are things we can do with a puppy or an adult dog to increase their confidence. Similar to the Disney character Bolt, we can build a dog's confidence by making them believe they are a super dog. This can be done through confidence building activities or confidence building exercises. An easy way to look at confidence building is to take something that the dog may be unsure about and make it predict something pleasant. For example, let's say you want to get your dog comfortable with different sounds. So you fill an empty kiddie pool with empty plastic bottles for the pup to play in. Now at first the puppy or dog may be hesitant, but if you demonstrate that it's fun by either getting into the pool first or luring the puppy or dog into the pool, they'll quickly discover that it's a fun activity, and the puppy or dog will associate the sound of the plastic bottles with fun. This is something that a lot of protection dog trainers will do with their puppies, because in some of the protection sports, they'll use what's called a bottle curtain, which is basically a bunch of empty plastic bottles hanging from a pole in a curtain-like fashion that the dog will have to run through. Simply put, it's about constantly exposing your dog to new things and making those activities pleasant by predicting something the dog enjoys. I'll go over a few confidence building exercises that I like to do with puppies and dogs that I work with. First, we want to expose our dogs to different sounds while providing rewards, starting at a very low volume and increasing as the dog becomes more confident. You could also have the dog walk on multiple different types of surfaces while giving them treats. An example could be having a dog walk on something like bubble wrap. Playing tug is always a great way to build a dog's confidence by allowing them to win. If we want the toy from a dog, we use the drop it command. We never physically rip the toy away from the dog because that would have the opposite effect. Again, we're trying to build the dog's confidence. Having the dog walk on elevated surfaces while providing rewards, but making sure the dog doesn't fall, which that could also have the opposite effect. Taking the dog to different environments for training and making it a fun, positive experience, gradually increasing the amount of motivating factors in the environment as the dog becomes more confident. You could also create a puppy or dog obstacle course in your yard or your house. Now, these are just a few examples, but you can see how the process works. Try being creative when doing confidence building exercises with your own dog. Now, confidence building helps prevent a dog from having fear issues, but what if those issues are already present in our dogs? This is when we use counterconditioning and desensitization. Counterconditioning is very similar to confidence building, but the main difference is that we are using counterconditioning to help with the dog to overcome something they may already be afraid of. For example, let's say your dog is afraid of the vacuum cleaner. First, start by breaking the vacuum cleaner down. Then introduce one piece at a time and reward your dog for each piece. Then start to assemble the vacuum one piece at a time. With each piece assembled, reward your dog. Then start rewarding the dog with high value rewards once the vacuum has been fully assembled. The dog will start to associate the vacuum cleaner with high value rewards. Start moving the vacuum cleaner around the carpet turned off. Again, reward the dog for behaving and being comfortable, but don't reward them if they start to bark at the vacuum. Turn the vacuum cleaner on, then off, treating it like a marker and rewarding your dog. Keep turning it on and off and eventually leave it on and reward your dog. Now your dog will no longer associate the vacuum cleaner with something negative. You can also simulate the sound on your phone by starting it at a low volume and gradually increasing as the dog becomes more confident. Here's another few examples. When training a sport protection dog, they have to become desensitized to gunshots because one of the exercises requires the dog to bite the decoy while the decoy is firing a blank pistol. Trainers do this by first firing the blank pistol at a distance that doesn't bother the dog. As the dog becomes more comfortable with the sound, they slowly, over time, bring the gunfire closer and closer to the dog until the dog isn't troubled at all by it. Keep in mind that each dog will take a different amount of time to learn a new behavior or to increase in confidence. I had a dog that I was working with a few years back that was terrified in public, and in 2 weeks we were able to fix the issue. And if you have guessed that I used a combination of desensitization and counterconditioning, you would be right. First, I only fed the dog and did obedience outside of the house. The first day I was in my front yard training. As the days progressed, I slowly moved to more locations with slightly more activity. As the dog's confidence went up, I went to even more locations with more activity. By the second week, I was doing obedience with the dog at the local Home Depot and PetSmart. It's important to keep in mind that I did not feed the dog in the house where the dog was comfortable. I wanted the dog to associate the public locations with the pleasant experience of training and food reward. So rather than having a relationship based on fear or the belief that the owner needs to be the alpha, it's much better to work with our dogs on the same team towards a common goal. Thanks again. As always, be sure to check out the other training instructional videos on my YouTube channel. Get a copy of my dog training manual. For one-on-one help, I do offer private lessons as well as Zoom training. If you want to support the channel, you can by liking, sharing, subscribing, checking out my website, become a Patreon, or shopping at either of my 2 online stores. All the links will be provided in the description of the video. Thanks again, and I will see you next week.